Did you know that it is impossible to be strategic if you don't have an objective? Literally, the definition of strategy says a plan of action or policy designed to achieve a major or overall aim. And personally, I think that we should be strategic about how we use our time. After all, it's our most valuable and limited resource that we have in life. And so I think it's really important that we use our time to make our lives and other people's lives as good as they can possibly be. Lately, I've been curious whether or not I'm actually using my time in ways that align with my life's priorities. So what I mean by that is that there are certain things in life that are important to me, and I'm sure that there are things that are important to you too, right? Maybe family is really important to you, maybe freedom, maybe loving other people, maybe fitness, maybe eating healthy food, maybe work, maybe earning money. There are all sorts of different good things in life that are more important to one person or the other. And there's certain things that are important to me, and I have certain specific goals, things I'm trying to achieve. And then I'm spending all this time doing things, and I'm wondering if I'm really doing the things that will help me get to those goals and that are in alignment with my priorities. So this week I decided to do a little experiment and figure that out. Now, when I say little, I guess I mean simple, and it's also not that long. I'm only gonna spend a week doing this, but it's kind of a massive undertaking. At least I feel like that. I'm going to attempt to track how I spend every single minute of my day, waking and sleeping, for the next 7 days, starting today. Now, going into this, I do already track how I spend my working hours, and I have an app that I use for that. However, that actually makes this almost more complicated because I need to keep tracking my work hours, but I also want to track all these other hours, and I can't really do that very well in the app. I can't be timing two different things at the same time. So that's gonna be a little bit of a challenge. Also, I'm not exactly sure how specifically I should define different activities, because if I'm trying to track hundreds of different small activities that I do throughout the week, then I don't feel like that is going to really be data that I can use to figure out whether or not I'm doing things in alignment with my priorities. So what I've done is I have made a list of different categories here on my phone. I'm going to track these different categories, and then if I find myself doing something that doesn't fit into any of these categories, then I will create a new category. Here are the categories I'm starting out with though. Working, family, entertainment, cooking/eating, personal care, housework, errands, socializing, and exercising. Now, right now, you might already think of one that I haven't thought of yet, but this is what I came up with, and I'm just gonna go throughout my week, and I'll make up new categories as I go if I need them. So today is Monday, and obviously I got out of bed, and I got myself ready. I started working. I'm making a video now, and let me just say that I've already missed a few minutes, so I can just see how difficult this is going to be. Oh, and there's one more thing that we should talk about. What are my goals? What are my priorities that I'm trying to align my time with? Well, I have some specific business goals that are trying to hit certain revenue numbers or certain numbers of new customers, things like that. But the purpose of this experiment is really to make sure that I am aligning how I spend all of my time with my personal priorities. And one of my personal priorities is to earn money with my business. So I certainly hope, and of course I know, that I am spending some time working in my business so that we make money. However, I want to make sure I'm not spending too much time working so that I'm sacrificing my other priorities. Some of my other priorities include being a good mom to my kids, which to me means that I am spending enough time with them, that I am playing with them, that I am being patient with them, and that I am constantly teaching them new things. Something else that's really important to me is taking good care of my body. And for me, that means that I'm taking the time to cook healthy food, I'm finding the time to exercise, and I'm finding the time to do things that are good for my mind, like meditating and journaling and spending time outside. My marriage and cultivating a good relationship with my husband is also really important to me. And the final thing that I'll add to this list of personal priorities is spending time with and developing good relationships with my friends. Okay, so in broad terms, those are my priorities, and throughout the rest of this week, we'll see how well how I spend my time actually aligns with those priorities. So it's Tuesday, and as I'm supposed to, I am tracking my time, and let me just tell you, geez Louise, tracking your time is hard. It is so difficult to remember to write down what I'm doing. So hopefully I am able to complete this experiment because I really want to find out how I am spending my time, but right now I just feel like it is constantly being a distraction to have to write down how I'm spending my time, and like I'm constantly forgetting. Now, beyond that, so far it is going well, and I'm actually being surprised by how I'm spending my time. I feel like I'm spending my time much more productively than I was kind of anticipating. I thought that I was probably wasting a lot of time just being idle, not doing very much in between different activities, but at least so far, at least for Monday and Tuesday so far, I've been pretty busy throughout the whole time and actually busy on productive, important work. At least that's what I think is happening. So we'll just wait and see what happens the rest of this week, add up the totals at the end of the week, and see what I'm really doing with all my time every week. So it's Monday now again, and over the past 7 days, I have tracked every minute of my time, both waking and sleeping, and I've just finished adding up my spreadsheet, and it took a lot longer than I thought it would, but now I'm going to share with you how I spent my time each day, some things that came up throughout the week, and how ultimately my time was divided between these different activities, and whether or not I feel it really aligned with my priorities. Okay, so here we are on Monday, and as you can see, I did a bunch of things on this day. I nursed the baby a bunch of times, I did some work throughout the day, and all in all, I would say that this was a pretty normal working day. Over here you can see I've added up the minutes that I spent on each activity, and now let's just move along to Tuesday. So let's kind of just zoom through this week. Again, fairly normal working day. Something that was surprising me throughout this time was the amount of time that I was spending eating. It was actually less time than I thought it would be. So there's dinner, here's lunch, here's breakfast. And just an aside, all of these eating times include both meal preparation and also actually consuming the food. As you can see here at the end of the day, it's marked as sleeping from 10:30 to 4 a.m. As you'll see on the next day here, that's because I then woke up and nursed the baby, but then went back to sleep. So I did sleep a little bit later than that. Okay, and so Wednesday, again, fairly normal working day, except that I did cut it short a little bit early so that I could go and exercise, which I'm really glad I got that in because I thought I would have a lot more time this week to exercise, but as you'll see, I didn't fit in very much of that. Later on when we get to the totals, you'll see that there's a category that's hygiene, and that does include both these that are marked hygiene when I was, brushing my teeth, getting dressed in the morning, and also in the evening, and also whenever I was showering. Okay, and then on Thursday, again, started out the day kind of the same way, working, nursing, eating, and so on. Something that happened on this day was that my husband left me with the kids all morning, which isn't something that normally happens, and it really made it difficult for me to actually get my work done on this day. Also, I noticed a pattern that I had never noticed before where I'm consistently wasting a little chunk of time almost every morning just doing practically nothing. This is after I'm all ready to work, but before I actually start working, almost every day I'm wasting about 20 minutes. So you can see that right here in this case I was doing some online shopping, but on some other days it was just some wasted time where I was just sitting around not doing much, maybe looking at my phone a little bit. Okay, let's move along now to Friday. Now on Friday, there was a graduation that we were going to attend in the evening, so we ended up leaving at around 1 p.m. in the afternoon. I didn't even manage to quite finish up my work, but I got some of the most important things done, and then we headed out because it was such a gorgeous day, so we decided to go out for a picnic. And so we went and we bought lunch at a local cafe, and then we took it to the park, and we spent several hours in the afternoon there at the park. And then from there, we ended up going out. We went and we looked at some real estate because we're considering moving, and then we drove out to the family graduation. Now, as you can see here, there's driving. Obviously, this involved a lot of driving, but one thing that surprised me this week was how much time I spend driving. In fact, when we look at the total here in a minute, you'll see how much time it was, but we actually spent a lot more time than that driving because, and this is something that just is a complete aside, I didn't realize how much time I spend multitasking, which actually makes accurate time tracking almost impossible. Most of the time when we're driving, that's of course also kind of family time because we're having conversations as a family. But I just marked it as driving for the most part, except for this one big family trip that we ended up taking on Saturday. I just counted that all as family time. And then sometimes when I'm taking care of the children, I'm also reading or also doing a hobby. Sometimes when I'm eating, I'm also checking my email or reading a book. There's a lot of multitasking that happens. And so yeah, that makes the time tracking almost impossible to do completely accurately, but I just tried to mark down whatever activity was the main thing that I was doing right then. Okay, so that was Friday. Now let's take a look at Saturday. And so on Saturday, we ended up going on a long day trip to the coast. We left at 10:30 in the morning. We didn't get home until 10 p.m. So obviously there was a lot of driving involved there. We were driving for several hours. In fact, maybe the majority of that time even. But I just counted it all as family time because that's really what we were focused on with that. And I did manage also to get to the gym and back, obviously, before we left on that trip, which again, glad I did because that was the only other time I made it to the gym. Then on Sunday, day started out pretty normal, then we got ready for church. That took way longer than I thought that it does. We went to church. I counted that as family time because I didn't think I needed a separate line item just for that one activity we did once in the week. And then in the afternoon, I did the grocery shopping, and I also spent some time on some hobbies like sewing, and I think I got in a little bit of reading here. Yep, there's some reading. And then we made it to bed at a reasonable time, but then the baby woke me up for like 2 hours in the middle of the night. Okay, so that's a really quick summary of what happened during the week, but now let's take a look at the totals and see how all that time actually added up. Okay, so here are the totals. I spent just under 30 hours working, just under 20 hours on family time. I also spent another 17 hours on childcare. And in case you're wondering how those things differ, childcare was just when I was actually taking care of the kids, which might involve playing with them. A lot of it was just getting them ready for bed or getting food ready for them or nursing the baby, whereas family time was when we were doing an activity together as a family, playing a game, going on that day trip, or going to the park, something like that. I spent almost 14 hours eating. That seems a little high, but when I look at it on a daily basis, it seems really normal. Driving over 8 hours, but like I said, we actually spent almost twice that much time. Just the other driving time I counted as part of this family time. And here's how much time I spent exercising. I only got in 2 hours of exercising. I'm actually kind of upset about that one. I would have liked it to have been at least 3 hours, 3-hour-long sessions during the week. Although ideally I would say probably 4 hours. 3-hour-long sessions plus a few shorter sessions throughout the week. 2 hours is just not enough. And then I spent 1.3 hours meditating. And I thought that I had meditated almost every day this week because prior to this week I'd been doing my 30 days of meditation experiment. But the reality was that I only managed to meditate 4 times during the week, so I skipped 3 of the days of the week, and I definitely feel it now. Like I said, I thought I was meditating every day, but I was feeling more stressed out and I didn't know why. And now I can see I wasn't really putting in the work that I needed to do. I spent 3.6 hours on personal hobbies. This week, personal hobbies meant reading and sewing. I recently, and by recently I mean very recently, just about a week ago, I bought a sewing machine and I've been sewing clothes for my baby because I just thought it would be fun and I wanted to make her some clothes. So I spent a few hours this week on that and also on reading. And I think that 3.6 hours is a pretty good amount of time to spend on personal hobbies, especially considering that I am a mom, so a lot of my not working time needs to go to my kids. I might like it if that personal hobby time was just a little higher, maybe 4.5 or something like that, but I feel like 3.5 was all right. I spent 3.3 hours on chores and errands. That seems really reasonable to me. Maybe a tiny bit more time there would have been helpful. Maybe our house would have been a little bit tidier, but our house is fine, and I think that there's other things that were more important for me to spend the time on. I spent 8.4 hours on hygiene, and honestly, that feels a little ridiculous, especially compared to the amount of time that I spend on hobbies or taking care of the house. But when I look at it on a daily basis, it doesn't seem that unrealistic. I spent about 20 to 30 minutes in the morning, and then another 20 to 30 minutes in the evening, just brushing my teeth and washing my face and changing my clothes. And then maybe 5 times throughout the week, I took a shower that wasn't a terribly long shower, maybe around 25 to 30 minutes. So I don't feel like it was that much time on a daily basis, but it sure did add up. Okay, the next line here is for idle time, 4.3 hours. Now I have mixed feelings about this idle time. First of all, let me tell you what the idle time was. Sometimes it was literally doing nothing, just like sitting on the couch, relaxing. Sometimes I was scrolling social media or watching YouTube videos, and sometimes I was shopping online. Now, obviously, most of those activities would be considered a waste of time, but I think that it's important to waste a little bit of time every week so that you aren't just constantly go, 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 but you actually get to relax a little bit. So I don't know if 4.3 hours is exactly the right amount. Maybe a little more would be better, maybe a little less. But personally, I think that that is a fairly good, moderate amount. I don't know. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. Do you think I need to spend more time relaxing, or should I stop wasting those 4.5 hours every week? Okay, so we're almost to the end of this. There was this line item that I didn't feel good about combining with any of these others, preparing to leave. So this was just getting my kids ready to get out the door. I guess I could have thrown it in there with childcare, but it was so separate from the other types of childcare that I kept it separate. I wish we could get out the door more efficiently, but I'm not quite sure how to speed it up. My kids get ready pretty fast. I think the biggest chunk of that was getting ready on Sunday morning, which we always do pretty slowly. All right, and then there's just one more item left on this list, and that was sleep. So for sleeping, I spent 54.3 hours, which I averaged that out, and it was 7.8 hours per night. I am very pleasantly surprised that I did manage to get this much sleep. I think that that was a great amount, really a quite ideal amount. So I'm glad that I got that much sleep. All right, so now let's talk about whether or not these times really align with my priorities. For the most part, I think I'm actually spending my time pretty well, which is a great surprise because I was worried that I was wasting a lot of time or spending a lot of time on things that weren't important to me. I think if I had tracked my time on some other weeks, I might have ended up thinking that I wasn't spending enough time on family and family activities. But this week we actually managed to take a long picnic at the park and also a long day trip, and so it made up for that. So I think that in future weeks I just need to remember that if I'm not getting in that daily family time, that I need to make sure that we get in a couple really good activities each week. I'm fairly satisfied with the amount of time that I'm currently spending working and on housework and on meal prep and on childcare. All those numbers feel pretty comfortable. The only number that seemed way off to me was that exercising. I only spent 2 hours exercising this week, and I definitely want that number to be higher. But of course, if you spend more time on something, then you're gonna have to spend less time on something else. So I'll have to decide what I spend a little bit less time on. Honestly, the only thing here that I think I should probably spend less time on, maybe cutting out a tiny bit of that idle time and maybe a little bit of work time. If I cut out maybe half an hour of each of those, then I could spend at least 1 more hour working out. But let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Have you ever tracked your time before? And how do you think I might be able to readjust my time? What should I cut out so that I could spend a little bit more time on those things that are most important to me, like spending time with my family and exercising. All right, well that brings us to the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed this. If so, hit that thumbs up button to let me know, and I hope to see you again next time, so be sure to subscribe down below if you haven't already. I make 2 videos every single week all about entrepreneurship, success, and personal development, and I would love to have you join us for the next one. So thank you again. I hope you're having a wonderful week, and I'll see you again next time.
You're a rebel, getting into trouble. You're